All right, so you watched the debate on Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Okay, so apparently Trump lost this thing big. I mean, Kamala did an amazing job. I'm just like, did you guys watch the debate? Like, you know, like
I watched the second half after a BPOU meeting.
the biggest thing I learned from the debate, by the way, is Kamala is trainable. Okay, because that was the big question, and that's kind of sad that you have to see if the candidate can actually have coherent thoughts and not completely screw up and sound somewhat intelligent. So good job, Kamala. You did that. Great, right? But they're like, oh, Trump took the bait on the answer, and he didn't. It was like Trump actually kind of threw out the whole thing, kept making great arguments about the economy and the border security. It's like, I'm pretty sure everyone left that debate knowing that. But what I thought was most interesting about this debate is the gaslighting after it, especially when it comes to fact checking, which is such a new thing. You know, it's like the fact checkers. Oh, this is what's true. It's what the fact checkers say. Even ABC, which they're live fact checking one side, which I also think the average voter, the ones that watch that debate, it's a very small minority, like 5%, that are literally undecided, probably watch and go, hey, why don't they actually say something about Kamala here? I don't think she's always telling the truth. But anyhow, this is a really good montage. This is the B1. You got to put the headsets on. This is the B1, or the montage on all the things that Trump said that was supposedly fact-checked, and then the truth. So let's go ahead and watch this. It's by Dave Rubin.
I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban.
Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor.
What she says is an absolute lie.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy. We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Let's remember Charlottesville. There were fine people on each side.
Very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away.
Let us finally pass an assault weapons ban and universal background checks and red flag laws.
I mean, what a great montage of just,
abortion ban.
I don't know, was that 5 issues that easily could be fact-checked? In the case of the abortion, this is what I wanted to get your opinion on, because you're an actual legislator. You were there during this thing. What's the lady's name? It was Dave Muir, and what's the lady's name?
Lindsay Davis.
She interrupts after Trump saying, well, there's no state, you heard it there, no state that actually allows babies that were born from botched abortions to die. And I'm like, we wrote about this, like literally in Minnesota, we wrote about this thing. And so pull up, Dawson, the B3. This is, I don't know if you've ever seen this, Walter. The Minnesota Department of Health actually has to produce a report to you guys. This is from July of 2022, so it's the numbers from 2021.
Sorry, you said B3. This is the right one?
Nope, sorry. B4. Sorry, good catch. I do want to talk about Jesse's article. Very well done. If you go to page 30, there is a report. They're required to do this called Born Alive Infants Protection Act report. Yep. Are you familiar with this at all?
I'm familiar with the fact that that was repealed and that we don't keep any report or statistics on this.
Oh, we do, actually. Did you? So I was like, I don't think I knew about this. You're a legislator. Now, you've been there for 2 years, obviously, so you're relatively new. But apparently they were required to do this. And in the case here, it says, for the calendar year of January 2021 through December 31, 2021, 5 abortion procedures resulted in a born alive infant were reported.
Yeah, so those are from 2021. So my understanding is they changed it so they're not going to keep these records anymore, and we're not going to get these reports from the Department of Health anymore.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, but did you know that they used to report this? So even 2021? Okay. So then let's go back to Jesse's article, because you're absolutely right. We reported this thing, and you knew about this. You probably spoke out against the House floor. This was an omnibus bill that got dumped on your guys' plate under 24 hours. By the way, there's rules until there's not rules, right? I think it was 800 some pages, 845 pages, right? So this is SF 2995. It had repealers in it. It also changed the language. I'm not seeing it in this article. Do you reference the previous reporting? Click on previous reporting above towards the top there. Looks like I wrote this article back in May of 2023. You'll see there there was something. It was called the basically medical care born alive infants. They got rid of as a result of an abortion. They struck it out. So that's what they do when they want to remove that from law. And then there was repealer. So it's exactly what you said, Walter, is they got rid of it. Now, I heard also this never happens, right?
Right.
The reports right there are 5. We looked into this. If you go back to that report, Dawson, and I think is it page 58?
Well, and generally the "this never happens" argument is complete and utter garbage, because the question isn't whether it ever happens. The question is whether it ever should.
Right. And once again, they always talk about rape and incest, and that basically is a rarity too,
that's
right?
like less than 1% of the cases involved, and we got to spend all our attention focused on that.
Right.
So, yeah.
I know there's a lot of, like you always hear, because they say it never happens, and then people always call the abortion clinics and say, a woman calls, I'm 32 weeks pregnant, and, the father just left me, and I want to have an abortion, and then they'll say, oh, yeah, well, we can't get you in for 2 more weeks, and then she'll be like, I'll be at 34 weeks, and is that going to be okay? Yeah, sure, no problem. Like there's hundreds of these videos, people making the calls, right? So in other words, they always say it doesn't happen, and there's people who call the abortion clinics like, is that going to be okay to go in 34 weeks? Do you do that all the time? And they're like, yes, we do.
It's such a self-own. It's such a self-own on their part to go to the "this never happens" claim, because if it's a great thing to do, if it's morally acceptable, if it's right, then why would you want it to never happen? Why is it never happening a good thing? I thought we were supposed to celebrate these, right? They know the in their soul, even if they won't express it out loud, the immorality of what it is that they're allowing and preaching. But instead of addressing it directly, they go to the "this doesn't happen" argument to try to convince you that, I guess there's nothing we need to do to prevent it from ever happening. I mean, shouldn't 5 babies, shouldn't 1 be enough? I mean, this is their line all the time, right?
Shouldn't 1 be enough?
Yeah. If it could save just 1 life.
Well, here's the numbers. We looked into this too. This is table 13, page 48. There's surgical and medical abortions. I'd argue there should be none, but this is what's currently happening. Roughly, and I guess these are 2020 numbers. So of occurring in Minnesota, which is another interesting thing, they see who's coming across to our state to get these abortions. But there's 10,339. I'm pretty sure those aren't in reported in thousands, right? Budget figures. Wouldn't that be scary? Maybe that's what they want. But 10,339 abortions that occur in Minnesota. Of that, and you can see it's dilation and evacuation, that's partial birth abortion, which we would assume at that point most of those are going to be viable babies. 687 that occurred in 2020.
687.
And so what we know from the reporting is of those, they are induced. They were born alive, 5. You could even look in that numbers. Dustin and I are going back and forth on it. Maybe 2 of them you take out because they were going to die regardless of any care.
It was 3 of them.
So then there's 3 left, and I still go with your point, Walter, if there's only 1. But once again, there's 687 of these late-term abortions, and you got to imagine a majority of these things, these babies, human beings, could actually be viable outside the womb, 100%. And we are killing it. And so we see a fact check by ABC Live to Donald Trump, and it's not even true. In Minnesota, babies are allowed to die after being born, and in the case of Minnesota, and by the way, I'd argue the numbers are, in fact, this would be a good thing for you guys to do in the legislature. I bet you anything, I would just bet so much that the numbers are worse than that, and they're just not reporting. Because anyone that could actually extract, because you can't possibly look at this, right, in a partial birth abortion and go, that's not a human being. You can't look at that and not say, that's a baby, because it's recognizable as a baby, right? It's developed. Anyone that would do that would also not have the ethics to accurately report things to the government. I even saw in this report, they say what happened to all the discarded babies. We're not going to use fetuses, babies. And zero are unexplained. It's either burial or cremation. 0 is other, which would be, we've seen the same reporting that there are baby parts being sold. Well, I guess maybe they still call it cremation, but they sold the baby parts and discarded that, which is just so sick and disgusting. And that's what the left really, in my opinion, represents. The very bad part of the left. And I think most people are against it in this country if they know that. And Trump, to his credit, and we've been saying this for years, what we have to do on the conservative side, the pro-lifers, need to not talk and not play defense, but tell them how bad their radical views are. But it's such an interesting thing that we're being gaslit by the media and the fact that, oh, Trump just making that one up. Maybe he made up the cat's comment, Dawson, I don't know. But he's not making this up. There are babies born alive that are not getting life-saving care, and it seemed like it was happening even before they got rid of that law.
Yeah, this is a point of controversy. I mean, we've talked a lot about controversies within the party today, but this is another controversy within the party at all levels, elected people, activists, donors, and it is an unresolved battle where on the one hand, you've got people who are saying, because we need to win elections, because it's so important to win, we need to back away from this issue, put our heads in the sand, come up with some cutesy way to talk about it that is going to somehow satisfy people. And I'm betraying my bias here. I think that's an absolutely absurd position, because it's not as though, in order to think that plan, that strategy is going to work, you have to imagine that there's a statute of limitations in everyone's head past which they will forget that Republicans were ever pro-life. Like, that's never going to happen.
Right.
It's not like there's some like radical pro-abortion or even moderately pro-abortion person who votes against us because of that issue, who's suddenly going to be like, you know what, I haven't heard Walter Hudson talk about abortion for about 6 months. I think I'm about ready to hear what he has to say, right? Like, that's an absurd idea that's going to happen. I agree with you. I loved what Trump did. I think we need to have an offensive campaign, and we know it will be effective because of how they're reacting. Because of the fact that they're trying to do a fake fact check, because of the fact that they're talking about, oh, this never happens, that never happens. They don't want to talk about this issue on that end of the spectrum. So that's where we should be bringing the conversation.
Bingo. And by the way, do you know he asked, when does life begin? Or he basically asked, when is abortion not good? 7, 8, 9 months? Do you know what her answer was? She didn't answer that question. Like, that should be hello. Well, maybe we're over the target there, because they don't want to answer that question, meaning they are fine up to the moment of birth, or in this case, even after birth. It's a human being. You should be protecting that life.
The current orthodoxy within the Democrat Party is zero control, regulation, observation, record keeping. It's just going to be the wild, wild west. Like, the one area of life where we're going to have an Ayn Rand utopia is in the killing of babies.
Yeah.
We're just not going to we're not going to pay attention. It's see no evil, hear no evil. Oh, but we'll send them money too. We'll fund it. We'll intervene in that way. And I'm telling you, this whole thing with the way that we address it, you want to talk about that side of the spectrum, the horrors of what it is that we're inflicting. But I think we also need to have kind of a cultural conversation about, like, how did we get to this point? How did we get to the point where with Bill Clinton, when I was in high school, was talking about how we want it to be safe, legal, and rare. And now you've got these activists who are going out there. I forget exactly what their connection was to the Democratic Party, but they're writing articles making the case that we need to destigmatize abortion and be able to, like, laugh while we're talking about it, and it'd be a casual piece of conversation. So where they're at in their movement is they're now at the point where we're going to stigmatize you feeling bad about having killed your child. And we're going to promote a culture that says it's okay to be okay with having killed your child.
Right.
That's where we're at.
Scary.
And you know what? Bring that right on. I think that's a conversation we absolutely should be having. You go ahead and make the affirmative argument that we should celebrate death. I'll take that argument on all day long.
Well, and the poor children are even born to these people, the same people that are doing that. they're fine with sterilizing these children when they're not even legally able to get a tattoo, but they are fine sterilizing a child.
Yeah.
It is so evil what's coming from that side on just the social moral issues of the day. All right, let's leave on that note, Walter. I really do appreciate.
I say Senator May Quaid had actually a really she like speaking of the utopia or whatever. She spoke to me. I was like, shoot, like when they were having this argument about basically letting a baby that's born die. All these Republicans were making these cases and practically crying on the Senate floor and stuff. And then she said, look, I don't think that that we need government in this place. When someone's born with a baby is born with half a brain or something like this, and they're obviously going to die within like 90 seconds or something. Then somebody wants the mother to be able to hold their dying child in their arms. Instead we got to have paddles and be yelling clear and trying to resuscitate a baby that absolutely can't live. And let's let the doctors and the mothers decide. And I was like, shoot, that actually speaks to me. You know what I mean? But obviously that's not what it's about. That's like some kind of that's not what generally they're talking about. But that's their excuse for it, rather than like you said, the argument that, like you said, bring the argument on that we should be able to abort 8-month babies and 9-pound babies or whatever.
687. That's what the numbers say. 600. Why did I say 687? 611.
685. You're saying the amount of pages in the bill?
I'm sorry. Oh, we do have the numbers for 2021. It's it's page 16. That's weird. 611 in 2021. So it went down. That's good. Still 611 dying by partial birth abortion. 687 looks like in 2020. Terrible.